consulate in Turkey came to light. Joining us now for some analysis on South Africa's stance is Na'eem Jeenah. He's from the Afro-Middle East Centre. Na'eem, good morning. And thanks for your time. And I mean, this story and all the question marks that seem to be pouring down on it. And I think let's start with the disappearance and what we now know to be the death of Jamal Khashoggi. Why has it become the story that it's become? We have journalists who are killed in conflict areas, in other areas, disappeared under mysterious circumstances all the time. What has made this such a political hot potato, this story?
Well, I think there's kind of two parts to that. One is, why is this journalist more special than other journalists? But the other thing is, why is this Saudi victim more important than other Saudi? You know, they've, over the past 3 years, been bombing Yemen and have killed thousands, including school children just a few weeks ago. But this has, garnered all this attention. I mean, it's a couple of things. One is from the perspective of, why this journalist. I think partly it's the gruesome nature of his murder. 15 people flown in, spy style, in an embassy, killed and chopped up into pieces and disposed of in different places, all of that kind of stuff. But the bigger thing, I think, is that there's also lots of the geopolitical stuff that's involved in it. So on the one hand, there's Turkey's interests in this. Turkey is using this very much to kind of put pressure on Saudi Arabia. And I believe that the first prize for Turkey is to have the Crown Prince removed from office. So they've been, in the manner in which they've been releasing information in little drips over the past 3 weeks, they've done it in a way that puts maximum pressure on Saudi Arabia and pulls the Americans towards their side. Then the second big reason is that he's a permanent resident, or has been a permanent resident of the United States, and writes for the Washington Post, which Congress people regard very highly and very respectable. So the Americans have taken it kind of very personally, as if it's almost one of their own.
And it has something, sort of a strike against them or something like that. So South Africa's stance, or lack of stance, I don't know what we'd call it at this point, over the story. And I mean, we all heard and read about Denel just a couple of days ago. Would we put that down to maybe waiting to see exactly what happened here? Or would it be, it's got to do with the money now and it's got to do with business, and we'll just rather just stay neutral on this whole thing?
I think it's got a lot to do with business. Look, the statement that came out from the South African government expressing concern about the disappearance, as you said, came out after the whole world knew that he had been murdered. And there's been nothing since then. So I think Denel is a small part of it. Clearly the Saudis would very much like to get their fingers into Denel for various reasons, as would the Emiratis and the Qataris. But recently on President Ramaphosa's visit to Saudi Arabia and the UAE, each of those two countries pledged $10 billion in investment into South Africa. And South Africa is now in the process of trying to collect on those pledges. So they certainly don't want to jeopardize that kind of investment for all the kinds of reasons that they need money in South Africa. We just saw the finance report. So they don't want to jeopardize that. And the problem with that, of course, is that we are sacrificing then our kind of values and constitutional values and the morality that South Africa had become known for, which I think over the past 10 years we've kind of lost and should be trying to reclaim. But we're sacrificing that standing internationally for business, and I think that's a problem. And
as we stand, Na'eem, I mean, we've got all these all the various governments now condemning and speaking out against Saudi Arabia, speaking out against this horrific crime, which it actually is. What happens? I mean, we speak oil, we speak Saudi, we speak it impacts all of us at some point. What is the worst that can happen here? Could we see Saudi Arabia getting increasingly pissed off, I'll use that word, and saying, listen, take that, the rest of the world, because you don't actually know what happened? Or how do you see this panning out?
Yeah, I don't think that we're going to see a pissed off Saudi Arabia. We're going to what we're seeing is a shell-shocked Saudi Arabia. Because certainly in Mohammed bin Salman's kind of powerful position over the past 3 years, he's done all kinds of things and got away with it, and he knew he'd get away with this. War in Yemen with thousands of people killed, blockade on Qatar, kidnapping a prime minister of a foreign country, Saad Hariri from Lebanon, and forcing him to resign on TV, which resignation he then revoked when he got back home. I mean, all of these kinds of things were done and they got away with it. So the response they're getting now has really shocked them. I think that it's a question now of how much more pressure will be brought to bear, and the deciding factor will be if the Americans take a harder line. If they do, it's possible that that the Crown Prince will be forced to step down and be replaced. The Turks certainly want that, I believe, as their first prize.
That investigation is they're going to go, I suppose, all
and
out.
I suspect that they actually have a smoking gun that links him directly to the murder, but as they've done over the past 3 weeks, they're not releasing all the information at once. So I don't think we're going to get a case where Saudi Arabia is going to close the oil taps and say, you know, go to hell the rest of the world. I think they're not in a good position at the moment.
Okay, well, let's see what Turkey has up its sleeve after this. And very quickly, while I have you here, Na'eem, on a completely different issue, coming back home and what we saw coming out of Verulam and the Verulam Magistrates Court and those suspects with the bombings and the mosque attack, and now the ISIS claim by prosecutors. Are we surprised by this? Because I'm from Verulam. I know for many, many years there were rumours around town that it was a training ground for terror activities. There was a certain prominent family that was involved. Are we surprised by this? We also saw the recruitment, the random recruitment over the past couple of years, the teenagers from Cape Town and other parts of the country. So what are you reading into this?
Well, if it's true, I would think it is surprising because we know that there's been recruitment. But it's been very clear that South Africa is not a target. So if it's true that these are ISIS people, that they regard this as an ISIS operation, even though ISIS hasn't claimed responsibility for any of this, then I think it would be surprising but also concerning, and we need to reevaluate how we deal with this.
Okay, so very worrying indeed. Okay, thank you very much. Things about to get very interesting here.